8 years ago, on a dark, rainy night, a little girl named Emily vanished from a wrecked car by the rushing river. Everyone thought she was gone forever. But today, on her father's wedding day, a tired, ragged young woman steps up to the grand estate gates and whispers softly, "Daddy, it's me." No one believes her, especially not the beautiful bride who's about to lose everything in the bustling heart of New York City, where skyscrapers touched the clouds and fortunes were made overnight. There lived a man named Richard Harrington, a billionaire with an empire of tech giants and towering real estate, but behind the polished boardrooms and luxury penthouses, his true wealth was his family, especially his daughter, Emily. She was just 10 years old, the spark that lit up his entire world, with her curly brown hair, bright green eyes that mirrored his own, and a laugh that could melt the coldest hearts. She was everything to him and to his wife, Laura. Laura, Richard's rock, a kind-hearted artist who brought warmth to their lavish home in the Hamptons. They had tried for years to have a child, and when Emily arrived, it felt like a miracle. Mornings filled with her giggling over pancakes, afternoons with her sketching quietly in the garden, evenings where she'd curl up on Richard's lap, listening to his stories of innovation and dreams. "Daddy," she'd say, her tiny voice full of wonder, "one day I'll build something bigger than your towers." Richard would chuckle, hugging her tight. "You already have, sweetheart." He'd whisper, "You've built a home in my heart." But fate has a cruel way of shattering perfection. One stormy evening, as the family drove back from a charity event, their car skidded on the rain-slicked highway. The crash was brutal, a twisted mess of metal and screams. Richard woke up in the hospital, battered but alive, only to learn the devastating news. Laura was gone, and Emily was missing. Search teams combed the wreckage and the nearby woods for days, but there was no sign of her. The river beside the highway had swollen with the storm. Authorities concluded she must have been swept away. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Harrington," the lead investigator said, his voice heavy with regret. "We've done everything we can. She's presumed lost." Richard's world crumbled. He refused to believe it at first, pouring millions into private searches, drones, and divers. Billboards with Emily's smiling face dotted the city. "Have you seen her? Reward, $5 million. But months turned into years, and hope faded like a dying star. After 2 agonizing years, he held a memorial service, a quiet gathering where friends whispered condolences. "She's with her mother now," someone said, but the words felt like knives. Richard buried an empty urn next to Laura's grave, a symbol of the family he'd lost. The grief consumed him. He became a shadow of the vibrant tycoon he once was, delegating his business to trusted aides while he wandered the empty halls of his mansion. The garden where Emily played grew wild, untouched. Nights were the worst. He'd sit in her room, clutching her favorite stuffed bear, whispering, "Come back to me, Emily, please." His heart ached with a void no fortune could fill. Then, 5 years after the accident, light flickered back into his life. Her name was Victoria Langford, a stunning socialite with sharp wit and unyielding ambition. She was the opposite of Laura, bold, glamorous, with raven hair and eyes like polished diamonds. They met at a gala for orphan children. Ironically enough, Victoria approached him, not with pity, but with fire. "Mr. Harrington," she said, her voice smooth as silk, "your work in AI is revolutionary, but imagine what we could do together, change the world, not just profit from it." Richard was intrigued. She didn't tiptoe around his pain. Instead, she challenged him, debated tech ethics over late-night dinners, and slowly pulled him from his isolation. "Life doesn't stop," she'd say softly, her hand on his, "because of loss. It honors the past by moving forward." Victoria was a whirlwind, filling his days with energy, his nights with passion. She wasn't trying to replace Laura or Emily. She carved her own space, becoming his confidant and lover. But Victoria had secrets, orphaned young herself. She clawed her way up from nothing, using charm and cunning to infiltrate high society. Richard was her ultimate prize, a ticket to unbreakable status. She loved him in her way, but ambition burned brighter. After 3 years, Richard proposed on a yacht under the stars. "Victoria," he said, "you've given me a second chance." Slipping a massive diamond on her finger, tears in her eyes, she whispered, "And you've given me a future, Richard. I promise to make you happy." The wedding was set to be the event of the season, a grand affair at the exclusive Willow Creek estate. Outside the city, invitations went to CEOs, celebrities, and politicians. Victoria planned every detail: crystal chandeliers, imported orchids, a string quartet. "This is our new beginning," she told Richard, her smile radiant. But as preparations buzzed, a young woman, far from this glamour, was fighting her own battles. In the gritty streets of Brooklyn, Lily Thompson scraped by as a waitress in a dingy diner. At 18, she was tough, but fragile, with faded scars from a past she couldn't fully remember. Found wandering near a riverbank 8 years ago, battered and amnesiac, she'd been placed in foster care. Flashes haunted her, a warm hug, a father's deep voice saying, "You're my world," and a terrible crash, but names and faces blurred. "You're lucky to be alive, kid," the social worker had said. "Start fresh." So she did, adopting the name Lily, surviving on tips and grit. She wasn't a beggar, like some street kids. She worked double shifts, dreaming of something more. One day, she'd tell her reflection, "I'll find where I belong." Green eyes staring back, with quiet determination. Fate intervened. One rainy afternoon, while flipping through a tabloid left by a customer, Lily's heart stopped. A headline screamed, "Billionaire Richard Harrington to wed socialite Victoria Langford." The photo showed Richard, older, grayer, but those green eyes, they were hers. Memories surged, the car spinning, water rushing, calling for Daddy. Trembling, she whispered, "That's him, my father." The article mentioned the wedding date, 2 days away, and the venue. It was over 50 miles, but distance meant nothing. Clutching the page, Lily quit her job on the spot. "I have to go," she told her boss. With her savings, a meager $200, she hitched rides and walked, her worn sneakers pounding the pavement. Exhaustion clawed at her, but hope fueled every step. "He'll know me," she repeated like a prayer. As the wedding day dawned, Willow Creek Estate sparkled under the sun. Guests arrived in limos. Victoria a vision in lace and pearls. But at the gates, Lily appeared, disheveled from the journey, clothes rumpled, face smudged with dirt. 2 burly security guards blocked her. Invitation only, miss. One growled, please. Lily begged, her voice cracking. I need to see Richard Harrington. He's my father. I know it sounds crazy, but look at this. She held up the crumpled tabloid photo. The guards exchanged glances and laughed. Your father? Yeah, and I'm the president. Beat it, kid, before we call the cops. Desperation rose. Just tell him Emily is here. He'll understand. The commotion drew attention. Victoria, greeting VIPs nearby, stormed over, her entourage trailing. What's this nonsense? She snapped, eyes narrowing at the ragged girl. Who let this intruder in? Lily's eyes pleaded. Ma'am, please, I'm not here to cause trouble. I just remembered the crash, the river. Richard is my dad. Emily Harrington, that's me. Victoria's laugh was sharp, venomous. Emily? The dead girl? How dare you? You're just a gold-digging fraud, trying to ruin my day. She turned to the guards. Get her out of here. Make it hurt if you have to. The guards grabbed Lily, one twisting her arm. She cried out. No, wait. Daddy would want to know. Guests murmured. Phones out. Recording. Victoria, face twisted in rage, slapped Lily hard. You filthy liar. Strip her if she resists. Show everyone she's nothing. Pain exploded across Lily's cheek. But worse was the humiliation. Tears streamed as the guards tore at her shirt. Stop. Please, someone help. Suspense hung thick. Would anyone intervene? Just then, a sleek car pulled up. Out stepped Alexandra. Alex Harrington, Richard's adopted daughter, from Laura's previous marriage, now a successful lawyer. In her 30s, Alex had always been protective of her family. She pushed through the crowd. What the hell is going on here? Alex Harrington strode forward like a force of nature, her tailored navy suit cutting through the crowd of silk gowns and tuxedos. At 34, she was a partner at one of the top law firms in Manhattan, known for dismantling liars in courtrooms. But right now, her sharp blue eyes weren't focused on winning a case. They were locked on the brutal scene unfolding at the estate gates. Release her now. Alex's voice was low, but it carried the kind of authority that made people obey without thinking. The guards froze, one still gripping Lily's torn sleeve. Victoria spun around, her perfect smile cracking into something ugly. Alexandra, darling, Victoria said, forcing sweetness into her tone. This is just a pathetic beggar, trying to crash our wedding. She's claiming to be Emily. Can you believe the nerve? Alex ignored her completely. She dropped to her knees on the gravel driveway, not caring that it ruined her designer heels, and gently pulled the jacket from her own shoulders to wrap around Lily's trembling body. Up close, Alex could see the bruises already blooming on the girl's pale arms, the split lip, the dirt-streaked tears, carving lines down her cheeks. Lily looked up, terrified and exhausted, green eyes wide with pain. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Alex felt her breath catch in her throat. Those eyes, the shape of the face, beneath the grime, the faint scar on the left eyebrow, the one Emily got, falling off her bike at 7. Emily, Alex whispered, her voice breaking, for the first time in years. "Oh my God, is it really you?" Lily flinched at the name, then something shifted in her expression, like a memory fighting to surface. I think so," she choked out. "I remember a big sister who read me Harry Potter. You used to do all the voices." Alex's hand flew to her mouth as tears spilled over. She had read those books to Emily every night after their mother married Richard. "It's me, baby. It's Alex." She pulled Lily into a fierce but careful hug, mindful of the bruises. "You're alive. You came back." The crowd had gone deadly silent. Phones were still recording, but no one dared speak. Victoria's face had drained of color. "This is ridiculous," she snapped, though her voice wavered. "She's clearly a con artist who did her research. Richard buried his daughter years ago. This girl is just—" "Shut up, Victoria." Alex's words cut like ice as she helped Lily stand. "You don't get to speak. Right now. Not after what you just did." At that exact moment, Richard Harrington emerged from the main hall, drawn by the unnatural quiet that had fallen over his wedding. He looked impeccable in his custom tuxedo, but his eyes were tired, older than his 55 years. "What's going on?" he asked, irritation clear. "Victoria, Alex." Then his gaze landed on the small figure wrapped in Alex's jacket, clinging to her like a lifeline. Richard stopped dead. The world narrowed to just those green eyes, looking back at him. Eyes he'd seen every day in photographs for 8 long years. "Daddy." Lily's voice was barely audible, raw from screaming and crying. She took one shaky step forward. "It's me. I'm sorry it took so long." Richard's champagne flute slipped from his fingers and shattered on the stone path. He didn't even notice. His knees buckled, and he staggered forward, reaching out with trembling hands. "Emily," the word came out broken like a prayer he'd stopped daring to say. "My baby girl." He fell to his knees, right there in front of everyone, pulling her into his arms, with a sob that tore through the air. "You're real. You're really here." He buried his face in her tangled hair, rocking her like he used to when she had nightmares. "I looked for you everywhere. I never stopped looking. In my heart." Lily, Emily clung to him with desperate strength. "I tried to come home," she whispered against his shoulder. "The water was so cold. I couldn't find you. I forgot everything for so long." Father and daughter stayed locked together on the ground, crying, while the elite guests watched in stunned silence. This wasn't just a wedding interruption. It was a resurrection. Victoria stood frozen, her bouquet trembling in white-knuckled hands. Panic flickered behind her perfect mask. She had studied Richard's past obsessively, knew every detail of the crash, the searches, the memorial. Emily Harrington was supposed to be dead. This girl's arrival threatened everything she had built over years of careful planning. Alex stood protectively beside them, glaring at Victoria. "The wedding is over," she announced coldly. "Everyone needs to leave. Now." Richard finally pulled back, just enough to cup Emily's bruised face. In his hands, his thumbs gently wiped away her tears, though his own kept falling. "Look what they did to you," he said, voice shaking with fresh rage, as he took in the injuries. "Who hurt my daughter?" Emily's eyes flicked toward Victoria, fear flashing across them. Victoria took an involuntary step back. Richard followed her gaze. Something dark and dangerous settled in his expression. You, he said quietly to Victoria. The single word carried more weight than any shout. You did this. I thought she was lying. Victoria stammered, but even she didn't sound convinced. Richard, darling, let's talk privately. No, he stood slowly, keeping one arm firmly around Emily. Security, escort Ms. Langford off the property. The ceremony is cancelled. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Victoria's face twisted in fury and humiliation. You can't be serious after everything after everything? Richard's voice rose. For the first time, my daughter shows up after 8 years, beaten and bleeding at your orders, and you want to talk about everything we've planned? Get out of my sight. Security moved in. Victoria struggled briefly, hissing threats and insults, but they led her away as cameras flashed relentlessly. The scandal would dominate headlines for weeks. Richard turned back to Emily, all the anger melting into tenderness. Let's get you inside. Sweetheart, you're safe now. I've got you. As Alex helped guide them toward the estate's private medical suite, Emily leaned heavily on her father, every step painful. But for the first time in 8 years, she felt the warmth of home wrapping around her. Inside, doctors examined her, while Richard refused to leave her side. Bruised ribs, dehydration, cuts on her feet from walking so far, but nothing permanent. She's a fighter. The doctor said softly, like someone I used to know. When they were finally alone, Richard sat on the edge of the bed, holding her hand, like it might vanish. Tell me everything, he whispered. How did you survive? Emily's voice was hoarse, but she told him. The crash, waking up alone, on the riverbank miles downstream, the amnesia, foster homes, running away, surviving on the streets, working dead-end jobs, and then seeing his face in the magazine. I knew it was you the second I saw your eyes. Daddy, I walked for 2 days straight. I couldn't stop until I found you. Richard's tears fell onto their joined hands. I should have kept searching the river longer. I should have. You couldn't have known, she said firmly, squeezing his fingers. I'm here now. That's what matters. Alex stood in the doorway, watching them with a soft smile through her own tears. But in the back of her mind, a seed of suspicion had taken root. Victoria's reaction had been too extreme, too panicked. Something felt wrong. Later that night, as Emily finally slept under heavy blankets in a guest room that felt like a dream, Richard sat with Alex in his study. She's really home. He kept repeating, like he needed to say it aloud, to believe it. Alex nodded, but her lawyer instincts were screaming, Dad, there's something I need to check. Victoria's behavior today, it wasn't just bridal nerves. She looked guilty, terrified, even. Richard frowned. You think she knew something about the crash? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Alex's eyes hardened with determination. No one hurts my little sister and gets away with it. Not ever. Outside, the canceled wedding lights still twinkled in the trees, casting long shadows across the estate. The celebration had turned into something far more profound and far more dangerous, because if Victoria had secrets deeper than cruelty, they were about to come crashing into the light, and some truths, once uncovered, could destroy everything. Word count, approximate. The days after the canceled wedding were a whirlwind of joy and quiet healing at the Harrington estate. Emily slept in a room filled with soft light and fresh flowers. She woke up each morning to find her father sitting nearby, just watching her breathe. Richard canceled all business meetings, turning his phone off. For the first time in decades, he read to her, brought her favorite childhood foods, and held her hand during the nightmares that still came. Alex, meanwhile, worked in the shadows. She couldn't shake the feeling that Victoria's cruelty at the gate had been more than just a spoiled bride's tantrum. That look of pure panic in Victoria's eyes. It felt personal, too personal. Late at night, Alex sat in the study with her laptop, digging through old records, news archives, and anything connected to the crash 8 years ago. One evening, as snow began to fall, outside the windows, Alex's phone buzzed with an unknown number. A woman's voice, trembling and low, came through. "Is this Alexander Harrington? Please don't hang up. My name is Sarah Langford. I'm Victoria's older sister." Alex's heart skipped. "Go on." "I saw the news. About the wedding. About the girl, Emily. I've been carrying something for years. I can't stay silent anymore." Sarah's voice cracked. "Victoria, she was involved in the accident. Not just involved. She caused it." The room spun. Alex gripped the phone tighter. "Tell me everything. Now." Sarah's confession came in broken pieces. Years before she met Richard, Victoria had been obsessed with him from afar, reading every article, following his life. Like a shadow, she saw Laura and Emily as obstacles to the perfect future she imagined. On the night of the charity event, Victoria had learned the family's route home. She paid a desperate mechanic, an ex-boyfriend deep in debt, to tamper with the brakes on Richard's car. It was supposed to be a warning scare, just enough to cause an accident that would leave Richard grieving and vulnerable. But the storm made it worse. The car spun out of control, crashed, and plunged toward the river. Sarah had overheard Victoria on the phone that night, panicking as news of the crash broke. It went too far. Victoria had whispered to the mechanic, "The wife is dead, but the kid, if she's found, it's over." When search teams couldn't find Emily, Victoria convinced herself the river had taken care of the problem. She waited years, then carefully inserted herself into Richard's life, playing the perfect savior. "I stayed quiet because she threatened me." Sarah sobbed. She said if I ever spoke, she'd ruin me too. But seeing Emily alive, seeing what Victoria did to her at the wedding, I can't live with it anymore. Alex recorded every word. Then she called her most trusted private investigator, Marcus, a former FBI agent who owed her a favor. "Find the mechanic," she said. "His name is Derek Walsh. And find proof." Marcus worked fast. Within days, he located Derek in a small town upstate, living under the radar, haunted by guilt and cheap whiskey. Faced with the recording of Sarah's confession and the threat of murder charges, Derek broke. He handed over old phone records, bank transfers from Victoria, and even a voice message from 8 years ago. Victoria's voice, cold and clear. "Make sure the brakes fail. Just enough. I need him broken, not dead." The evidence was ironclad. Police arrested Victoria quietly at her Manhattan penthouse 2 weeks later. She didn't fight. When Richard and Alex visited her in holding her perfect mask was gone. She looked small, defeated. Why? Richard asked, voice hollow. I loved you. I was going to give you everything. Victoria's eyes filled with bitter tears, because everything was never enough. I wanted to be the one. He needed the only one. She looked at Alex. Tell Emily, tell her I'm sorry, not that it matters. Emily never went to see her. She didn't need to. The trial was swift. Victoria pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit manslaughter and attempted murder. The judge sentenced her to 25 years. As she was led away, she didn't look back. Spring came early that year. The gardens at the Harrington estate bloomed with color Emily hadn't seen in nearly a decade. One warm afternoon, she sat on the porch swing with Richard and Alex wrapped in a soft blanket, watching the sunset paint the sky in gold and pink. I used to think, Emily said quietly, the world was cruel, that it took everything good away, but it gave me back to you. It gave me time to grow strong. Richard kissed the top of her head. You were always strong, sweetheart. You walked through fire and came home. Alex smiled, squeezing Emily's hand. And now we get to build something beautiful from all of it. Together, they founded the Second Dawn Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to finding missing children and supporting survivors of trauma. Emily became its heart, speaking at events with a quiet power that moved everyone who heard her. She went back to school, studied art like her mother, and slowly healed the hidden scars. One evening, as the family sat together by the fireplace, Emily looked at her father and sister and said, I learned something important. Real family isn't just blood. It's the people who never stop looking for you, even when the whole world says to give up. It's the ones who fight for you, protect you, and love you, even when you're broken. Richard's eyes shone with tears. And real love, he added softly, doesn't take. It gives. It waits. It heals. Alex raised her glass of cider to second chances, to light after the longest night. They clinked glasses, the fire crackling warmly around them. Outside, the stars came out, one by one, bright and steady. Emily looked up and smiled. She had been lost, but she had been found. And in finding her way home, she had reminded everyone around her of the deepest truth. No matter how dark the storm, no matter how long the night, love, true, fierce, patient love, always finds its way back. It rebuilds what was broken, stronger and more beautiful than before. And that kind of love is the most powerful force in the world. True wealth isn't money or status. It's the love we give and protect. Real love never destroys. To possess, it sacrifices, waits, and heals. And no child, no person should ever be treated as disposable for someone else's ambition. Every life matters. Every lost light deserves to be searched for until it's found. And there, the story ends with a family whole again. A little girl, once lost in the darkness, now home, safe, loved. If this story touched your heart, if it made you feel something deep inside, please hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel so we can bring you more stories like this one. Stories of hope, of second chances, of love that never gives up. Thank you for watching, for feeling with us. See you in the next one. Take care.